Chusa Yaksa Inchat, Hozet Sish, hello, it's Inchat here, Sean Atleo, coming to you from unceded Algonquin territories at the Assembly of First Nations National Office in Ottawa. It has been a very busy time at the Assembly of First Nations, and I want to tell you about a few important activities and initiatives underway. We had a very productive Special Chiefs Assembly last December, and we are advancing our work based on First Nations rights and treaties. Firstly, First Nations education. One of our key priorities is, of course, education, and specifically supporting our students so they succeed. A strong voice and resilience of our youth stood out at the December Special Chiefs Assembly. They spoke strongly and passionately about education and the need for a system that embraces their languages, cultures, and values. The federal government responded to our call for action on education. We're currently working with the federal government on a joint initiative on K-12. This focused effort to engage with First Nations on elementary and secondary education will be overseen by a panel of experts jointly appointed by the AFN and the federal government. This is not another study. First Nations have put forward concrete plans and proposals for progress. The panel of experts will have a time-limited mandate to identify, explore, and bring forward clear options to advance and implement First Nations education systems and supports. This joint initiative is an opportunity to move beyond the status quo, which we can all agree is unacceptable. Chiefs will have a central role in this process. The Chiefs Committee on Education is involved in this work, and the terms of reference and the 3 members of the panel will be announced in the very near future. The results of the dialogue sessions will be jointly reported to the Assembly of First Nations and the federal government, and will be put before Chiefs in Assembly at our 2011 Annual General Assembly in Moncton. We hope to start the regional discussions in April and continue until mid-June. This will give First Nations time to review in advance of our AGA. We will have a full opportunity to discuss the results, recommendations, and next steps. We're also doing targeted work on post-secondary education. On January 27th, the AFN convened an online virtual summit on post-secondary education, opening a national dialogue with our students. I was very pleased, but not surprised, to see the overwhelming response to this event from our young people. More than 1,500 students and youth from 20 post-secondary institutions joined the conversation. Clearly, post-secondary education matters to our young people. We're planning for another virtual summit hosted by First Nation University of Canada, and one for our French-speaking students hosted by Université Laval. We will be reporting on the results of these sessions, and we'll make sure you have access to those reports. One final note on education. We are engaging with all our partners at all levels of education. On February 23rd, Ontario Regional Chief Angus Toulouse and I participated in the Council of Ministers of Education of Canada with provincial ministers and the leadership of other national Aboriginal organizations. We pressed the provincial ministers on the need to work with us to address the inequity of federal financial support for First Nations education generally, and the lack of support for First Nations schools in particular. Our work on education lays the groundwork for our many other important efforts. Education is the key to unlocking the full potential of our citizens, to provide the opportunity for success for our peoples based on our rights and our treaties. In terms of other activities, the next big event on our calendar is the National Planning and Dialogue Forum taking place March 7th and 8th in Vancouver. These forums are a new part of our strategic approach. There are opportunities to convene discussions and planning on critical areas to support First Nations governments in fulfilling their responsibilities based on their rights and jurisdiction. The theme of the upcoming forum is Strengthening Our Nations, Advancing Capacity for First Nation Governments and Economies. It builds on the last forum held in November, which was aimed at strengthening our governments, empowering our people, and displacing the harmful aspects of the Indian Act. The focus here is nation building and rebuilding, moving beyond the Indian Act framework, and identifying the tools and supports our governments need to advance forward on the path set by our citizens. I invite you all to attend and to share your ideas and experiences. We can all learn from one another, and this dialogue will inform our work at the national, regional, and local levels. One final item I want to talk to you about is a piece of federal legislation that deals with First Nations drinking water. Bill S11, the Safe Drinking Water for First Nations Act, is currently being reviewed by the Senate of Canada. Of course, we all support safe drinking water for our people, but unfortunately, Bill S11 in its current form will not help us to achieve this goal. I spoke at the Standing Senate Committee on Aboriginal Peoples on February 8th about the impacts of this proposed legislation. I told the committee that Bill S11 will not ensure our people have safe drinking water, and furthermore, it does not respect our rights or the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. The UN Declaration says that any new policies and laws must be developed in real partnership with First Nations. This did not happen with Bill S11, and this is likely why it fails in its stated purpose. We told the committee that we need real action now. There are 49 First Nations communities with high-risk drinking water systems and 116 communities operating under drinking water advisories. Bill S11 does nothing to fix this situation. Safe drinking water requires equipment, facilities, skills, and resources in the community. Bill S11 does not provide these resources. Instead, it sets out new authority to create regulations for First Nations drinking water. The problem is, our communities cannot meet these regulations without the resources for equipment, facilities, and skills. Our people could be punished for not meeting new regulations that they have no ability to meet. Simply put, Bill S11 will not guarantee that First Nations have access to drinking water, and we will not allow the government to impose laws or policies that intrude on our rights. We are committed to working with the federal government and any other groups to ensure that First Nations concerns about Bill S11 are addressed and that we get a better approach in place. I'm optimistic that we will make progress on this important issue, and we continue to support the efforts of leadership across Canada, including Grand Chief David Harper, as he takes his concerns regarding S11 to the United Nations. With that, I thank you for taking the time to join me today. Thank you.